Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is August 18th, and this is another of our monthly box scrubs. Our host will be Eddie, so take it away from here, Eddie.
Okay, doesn't look like we have anyone new on the call. I will share my screen. And if anyone has any that we should take a look at first, drop them in the chat, please. Otherwise, I had one that we should look at. So my coworker actually ran into this the other day. If you have a CRD with a top level directive of X Kubernetes preserve unknown fields true, it breaks kube control explain. So here was an example of it commented out, and we have all of our descriptions and whatever. And then with it there, kube control just kind of like doesn't give any fields or descriptions. So I tagged API machinery, and it looks like they got back yesterday that this appears to be a kube control problem. The field is valid on a CRD, so I didn't know if the field was valid at a top level, and according to Fede, it is. So,
Yeah, if I remember correctly, OpenAPI is not published when the Kubernetes preserve unknown fields is set. That was part of the structural schema or something along those lines. I can't remember specifically what was the name. So it's possible that what you're seeing is basically what the OpenAPI has. And if the OpenAPI is empty, you just basically got an empty information. So I wouldn't call it as an error.
So if it's not in the top level, so if you move this down a field to a subfield, it completely works fine.
Yeah.
I
because
would
it would probably omit only that single field because that field does not follow the schema, and I think it's being omitted in the OpenAPI.
It does not omit the subfields though when it's on the subfields.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So something that may or may not be relevant is that there's been a code change specifically for X Kubernetes preserve unknown fields that Antoine Police did within the last 2 to 3 months. There has been changes in the code, so it would be interesting to see if this actually in previous versions also shows this behavior.
Okay, I'll tag Antoine. I'll check what OpenAPI is actually sending back. I'll just hit it at raw or something. But yeah, it did not omit anything if it was on subfields. It was just the top field. So it was interesting. So according to Fede, this is valid. So take a look at it. Any other front of mind issues? If not, we will walk our boards. As for triage party, I do have infrastructure provisioned. We have a Google group that was created, and I believe Katrina, myself, and Mache were added to this. I think anyone can add themselves with a PR, but this lets us, basically we have our own namespace in the AAA cluster for Kubernetes org, and we can deploy triage party there. So I just have to copy paste the manifest and do the little shell script, and we should be good. So that is on my list for this week. Okay, so this is accepted. Oh, okay, yes, this is, we knew this was a problem with the Go completion. You can't pass IT together to do completion. I think this is fixed on the newest version of Cobra, which is also on, I have a PR open that is upgrading that. So this one's accepted. Describe pod doesn't take into account the new fields of events.
Yeah, that should be pretty simple fix. We can probably mark this one as a good first time issue. The events have a pretty you basically hard coded how the event should be printed. So it should be pretty straightforward for anyone to figure out and update.
Okay. So we'll say triage accepted, help wanted. I think it's just help wanted.
Just help, I think.
Okay.
Katrina was trying that one last week, and I think it was 2 weeks ago, and it was just help.
Yep.
Issue, but we'll need to document the work needed.
Yeah.
We talked about this in SIG Contrib-X. Good first issue should be like laid out of like, hey,
Oh, okay.
like you should look inside these files, and this is most likely where it is. So I'm happy to take a look and type that up to see if we can get someone.
Probably there's a single file that you just need to look. There's probably something that is called print event and something, and it lives in describer.go or something like that.
Okay. Support multiple. Okay, Katrina and Lau are working on that one. Anything we need to talk about for that? I know Lau has a PR open.
I LGTM'd yesterday, and Antoine was taking a look this morning. He had some questions. We answered them. I think it's pretty much ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Expose all auth provider config keys.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. That's probably an error in the how we are parsing the file. That it doesn't deal with pointers as the author is pointing out.
Do we have an idea of what those types are inside of config?
No.
Okay. Let's say triage accepted. Need to take a look if these types are pulled in by config as they start. Okay. Cube control config hides input error.
That seems to be related with the other issue. That's the same person opening two issues. One, he unset a field, and in the next issue, he commented that we don't allow setting the pointer fields. I would probably just close this one as a duplicate of the other one. Yeah. As soon as we fix that one, it should be okay. Yeah.
Okay. I may have to step away for a few minutes. Katrina, you okay taking over driving? Or Mache or someone?
Sure, I can pick it up.
Okay, all right, I'll be back in a few.
Hold on, let me share my screen and I'll pick it up from here. Okie doke. Let's see this one out. So the next one was this one. Migrate config to use a YAML file extension. Comments? And all in all, I think I agree with what Doug just wrote here. Given our past experience, how we try to move the config file, changing the name will be similarly problematic. So
I agree.
okay. Kubectl diff exits with code 0 when files don't exist.
There's a relatively special set of exit codes for diff that it's actually explained in the help for kubectl diff. So it's not just 0 and 1 like many other commands.
I mean, I would probably check what the Unix diff command does in this particular case.
That's what they try to follow. But there's 0, 1, and 2. And now there's also server-side diff and has been for quite a while.
Right, but server-side diff will probably, we won't even get to that one because the local one will fail when trying to read a file that does not exist. So probably I'll be curious to see what a regular diff. Oh yeah, it does return and not a non-zero, specifically 2. So that seems like a
It can't be reproduced there. It makes sense to me that it shouldn't exit 0 if the file doesn't exist because customization is failing. But if it can't be reproduced, that's another problem.
Definitely, it should not exit with a 0. It should return an error code. So yeah, that's definitely triage accepted. Definitely have a look at it. Okay. The next one. Kubectl auth, can I miss documentation for ASP parameter? Okay, somebody has a PR open, but in general, then yeah, this is a global flag, and it should not. I think we are explaining in the help that use kubectl options if you want to see global command line options that apply to all commands. So I'm not sure if we need any particular changes. I'll have a look at this PR, but I'm inclined to close it because you have all the information in the help command of any command basically. I'll have a look at it after the call and comment on that one. Okay. Kubectl apply -k earnestly recommends unsupported load restrictor flag. Isn't apply k customize? Yeah.
Yeah, and load restrictor is a flag that exists on standalone customize, which doesn't necessarily have all the same flags. So it could be legit.
Okay, I see that Ryan already has a PR. Which has been open for quite a while. I'll have a look at it after the call. In that case, okay. Did we have that? It doesn't triage. Okay, let's mark this one. It seems to be a problem. Kubectl exec TTY standard and leaking process inside when pod terminated. Yeah, it looks like it's not a kubectl particular issue, but rather the underlying container system, container engine. Because
Yeah, what do we want to do with the issue then?
I don't expect us to fix anything. So since this does exist against the kubectl repo, I'll most likely close it, especially that yeah, it's being easily reproduced with Docker. I bet that if I try this with cryo, the effect will be basically similar. The problem is that when you kill the process, you're only killing the kubectl exec, and nothing is or can actually affect the original.
Should we add SIG node?
Or yeah, but that not even SIG node. That will be container runtime, I think.
In any case, it shouldn't be on the
Yeah.
kubectl repo.
Okay, debug, ability to replicate volume mounts. Okay, I see that Lee already is handling that one, so let's assign him. That should be pretty okay. Where we were. Oh, I see that one already accepted. So we don't need to look at this one. Formatting of help flag is very different across commands. Yeah, that looks like reasonably simple thing. I think he's pointing out particular templates. That's definitely. Okay. Kubectl infinitely hangs when deleting an in-use per system volume claim. Okay, it looks like Eddie is already looking at it. Probably triage accept. Oh, I'll leave it for when we get info back. Metadata field of nested objects inside CR getting erased.
This is with the operator SDK.
Yeah,
So this isn't kube control.
that's what I'm wondering. Why would
Is it client go? Oh wait. It'll describe.
which metadata he's talking about? Resource type. Metadata of the child. And the childs are in workers. Worker group, a worker. Oh, this one. Oh, I know what that's a problem. The problem is that with the describe and CRDs, we still don't have a full information, and we are just doing best effort when printing CRDs. We miss the same functionality. So yeah, it's not a bug. Oh, kind feature, not a bug.
Is there not already an issue for what you were describing? The
I don't know.
planned mechanism?
There were ideas, but I'm not sure if we have an issue tracking this one. Maybe we have an issue opened in enhancement. Let me quickly check. Might be closed. I'll try to find an issue and link here. I can't anything top of my head to remind what might have been that. So, yeah, but that's definitely not a bug. And I'll tag that one appropriately. Eddie, I see you're back. Want to take it over?
Sure, or you can keep going. You're doing a great job.
I'll let you do that one.
Okay. I think you got to make me host again.
Sure. Yeah, you should be good.
All right. So you were just on this one. Okay.
Yeah, metadata field.
Okay, 1065. Persistent volume claim resources not returned by kube control get all. Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Do we have an issue that says all? You should never ever rely on all.
Are we going to deprecate all? I know we said we want to.
We wanted to. I'm not sure we can. That's the biggest issue.
Why don't you think we can?
Backwards compatibility as usual.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's list is what, hard-coded server side. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I mean, theoretically, the problem is that all is an alias. So anyone can add resources to any kind of aliases. You can even create your own CRD. I think that's called, the field is called alias or something along those lines. And add whatever you care about under this particular alias. So if I create my foo, it can be easily added to all. So even if we deprecate it and remove it, then that's first of all, that's a decision to be done at the API level. And secondly, it can be easily recreated by anyone, although it won't include the built-ins in that case.
Do we have documentation on how to do those aliases?
I think so. There should be something. I don't remember. Oh, let me.
Because what I'm thinking is any of these passionate people who really want to have all working could maintain a CRD, and boom, like you just, here you go, here's a CRD you can apply. Now you can get all stuff.
I don't think that's how it works. Is it like when you make a CRD, there's a field where you can say which groups it should be part of, groups or categories, or I forget what the key is as well.
Yeah.
There's no way for you to get a built-in type into the alias yourself.
Correct.
Right. So why do we not want to maintain the alias? Just too much work to get all, meaning actually all, to keep that list up to date? Or
It all might mean, because you cannot change the built-ins, but the problem is all can mean different things at different clusters, and we would be getting and answering issues that, oh, I'm seeing this, but I'm not seeing something else, and different people might get different outputs, and we said that we don't want to do anything like that. Basically, all was a mistake. It should have been, I don't know, core resources or something more descriptive. It just happened that it was picked all because it was simple, and all was actually all when it was introduced, and it was never expanded.
And it would be a different set at different versions of kube control, right?
Yeah.
The ones that are built in, or is it using OpenAPI?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Categories. That's the field name. Katrina just checked. And any
in the chat, I
resource can be-
pasted a link that we could use as close as duplicate. It's like a more generic issue. that all doesn't list all.
Yes, definitely. I think Jordan commented there because I see his name being mentioned there.
We have a lot of these everywhere. I've closed so many of these. Are they all linked to here? No. This
Quite
is
a
one of
few.
those things that I feel like we should do something about. What can we, this get all plugin, can we upstream that? Like, is that something we'd want to do? Because that's been our recommended solution instead, is like, hey, use this get all plugin.
Yeah. If somebody created something like it at all, it
No,
should
this
work.
exists for a long time. Like, this is what we tell everyone to use instead. It's already part of crew.
Okay, it's cat all, not get all. Okay. Oh, Cornelius wrote that one. Is it like configurable or how it works? I haven't looked at it at all, honestly.
I think I looked at the code at one point. It does walk everything.
Oh, so it's a quite intelligent get all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it actually walks every GVR, GVK.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm positive we don't want to do it in the first place, because on top of that, the different cluster will have different resources. Comes an issue of different users will see different values from a get all, because it will depend on what you actually have access to.
See, that's what I would expect to get all to do. And this is one of those things I feel like if we leave it, it's just going to keep coming up, and we need to figure out something.
So my proposal will be to get rid of all entirely, because it will be simpler. It would break people, yes. It will be the first time that we are breaking people. And secondly, it would have to go through SIG architecture, I think, or at least SIG API machinery, because they own the API. Because we will need to change the built-ins specifically to get rid of the get all alias entirely. This way, the problem would not exist. Because yes, I do agree that get all is confusing. And every single time people ask me about it, I was like, don't use it. Be explicit about what you want to get. It's a nightmare to support when people use get all.
Yeah, so this plugin actually uses the discovery client to grab all the GVRs and walks that. So this is actually a get all.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should either make a decision on upstreaming a plugin like this or removing it, because it's not useful to anyone. Because it's like you said, like volumes aren't even part of it, right? Like, and volumes have been stable for how long?
There's a lot that is not part of it.
Yeah. It's only pods, deployments, daemon sets, replica sets, services. I think that's it. So is that really benefiting anyone?
Honestly, I'm not sure if you would really want to do get all. What's your particular use case for doing get all? But yeah.
Personally, I've only used it or like reached for it in development clusters with basically nothing there, to remind myself what junk I've thrown in it, on my local machine. Not any real time in production, because it's not comprehensive enough.
I can't imagine invoking get all on a production, especially when you're close to some admin, and then add the uppercase A to it, and you will DDoS your cluster.
Yeah. that would be an argument against upstreaming the plugin, I guess. I
Yeah.
think it's a really bad practice to use.
Yeah, you want to be pretty explicit about what you want to get. And
I am going to send an email to KDev and ask for thoughts and feedback there.
yeah,
Because
definitely.
I just hate these things that we get in where it's just like, we can't do anything. It's stuck the way it is. And we don't want to do anything. You know, we don't want to make it better. We don't like it. Like, I agree with you saying that it was probably a mistake. It made sense at the time, but like,
I can admit that I've been using Getall, but that was like 6 years ago. But I stopped very, very long time ago.
all right, I will send an email to KDev and we'll start a discussion.
Definitely.
Okay, this is 1064. Apply and diff ignore changing service account to null, service account name to null empty. I think Lau, you assigned yourself. I think this is, I don't think you can change the service account name, can you? Is that one of those things you can't change once it's deployed? Yeah, because the pod token's already mounted.
Correct. I wonder if there is a I wonder why the kubectl apply did not complain that you cannot modify.
That's a good question. I mean, this could be something that gets addressed via a KEP, but it would require a deletion of the replica set and a recreation of the replica set.
Oh, okay, okay. I think I know what the problem is. So he created the initial deployment with a foo service count name. The deployment got created and everything else worked fine. He removed the service account name, which implies that it will be defaulted to default. The problem is the defaulting happens server side, not client side. So that's where he's expecting to see the diff between the local file and what is in the server. That's an interesting case.
Does it actually change anything?
No, because well, theoretically, you have something explicitly set on the server because the service account is foo. The question is though, because there are two fields. There's one which is called service account name, and there's another one which is called service account. I think they changed it recently, but for backwards compatibility, they're keeping both. I think one is deprecated and the other one is not. Okay, no, sorry, service account name is the new one. The deprecated service account is the service account. So yeah, theoretically you are seeing a change because you have a different value on the server and a different value on the client. So probably we would have to double check why it's not being showed.
So if it's recently changed, is there a, what version does he say here of kube control?
Oh, he's on
using?
120, so he's pretty up to date.
Recent, okay.
Yeah. Seems like a legit thing to look at. I'm inclined to accept it as is.
Okay. We should do some. So, all right. So expected behavior is either it warns you that it can't be updated, or does changing it actually update it though? Does removing it change it to default?
I would expect diff, at least diff
Diff
to
should at
give
least
you
work.
a difference between what you have inside the file and what's in on the server, because the server has a service account name set and it's not the default, whereas your local file does not have it. So yeah.
Can you type that up? What your expectations are?
Okay.
So I don't miss it. Thank you. All right, 1062. Be in trouble to get kube configured information from kube control to custom proxy API. I want to get cluster information and user information. We wouldn't provide that via headers, because those are just arbitrary local names.
We basically don't have any auth related mechanism embedded in kubectl. So he would have to deal with creating the appropriate config on his own.
Yeah, and they need to parse the config themselves.
Yeah, because currently if you look at it, different tools are doing it differently. I know that gcloud creates an appropriate kubeconfig to use with your GKE cluster. AWS is doing this similarly. OpenShift has a built-in login command that handles the creation of the file against a particular cluster. Kind handles that one for you as well by writing the file, the kubeconfig for you. So we never did that, and yeah. And the entire authentication flow will depend on your cluster. So
Okay. Oh, it's triage accepted. Accepted. Support top deployment. Oh, okay. I tagged instrumentation on this and they had thoughts.
yeah, I like David's suggestion about having some kind of a sum or aggregate, because you currently kubectl top pod has a selector, and you can filter a particular deployment. And David suggested to have a sum or aggregate basically there, because currently it lists all the resources and prints the information. So yeah, that's definitely something help wanted. Yeah.
Should we retitle it if what we're accepting isn't actually?
Yeah, Eddie is actually just doing that one.
We're on the same page, Katrina. So add sum or aggregate. Ooh, I can't type today. To kubectl top.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
So I put one in the chat. Can we have a quick look at that? It was actually in the triage party, and I accepted it, and I also threw or assigned it to myself and threw triage accepted on it, but I should have waited before doing that. And it was I assigned it to myself because I've just been working in here with the headers, but I'd like the rest of your eyes on this to see what you guys think. This something similar to this had already been fixed with by SIG auth like 3 years ago. If you look down at the ones that are mentioned, like 70, yeah, that one, or actually 7157 is the fix. My worry was that I had changed something with the kubectl headers that had triggered this, but it doesn't sound like it, and that I was hoping to get some thoughts from the rest of you guys on this one.
No, that looks like you're just missing an interface being implemented by the command header run tripper, specifically the cancel request. So yeah, that should be pretty simple fix. Similar to what was pointed out in the other issue fixed by the SIG auth. So yeah, that's definitely something that you did introduce, Sean.
Okay.
I can tell you that quickly. And yeah, the fix should be pretty simple. Just implement the cancel request. It's totally fine to even have an empty method if you don't expect any particular actions on your end, as long as it just follows the interface that is apparently expected.
Yeah,
Not sure how that was triggered. Would be nice to figure out when or how this was triggered. And see
yeah,
if
because
you can-
I never saw that. Okay, but
We have to cherry pick to 122, right?
would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's not a
That's
super
when we
critical, but
introduced
would be
it.
nice. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when we turned it on by default. So theoretically, it was there previously, but it was hidden. So
Those round trippers are such magic.
yeah, they are. Especially the problem here is that you might not stumble upon this for quite some time until you do in some weird edge case, and then it's hard to figure out when you are actually triggering that one.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we should figure out how it slipped in and then make sure that it fails in implementation or something.
I would, yeah, probably.
I'll try to figure out what the reproduction case is, and try to have some kind of test that figures that out. But the reason that it got in was that it sounds like it's difficult to actually get into this.
Yeah.
There's no timestamps on these, which is, I'm wondering if it was a timeout problem. Because why would I try to cancel it if it wasn't timing out?
It's possible, but it will be a server-side timeout. I don't know.
I wish there was timestamp. This is not helpful output.
Well, there are timestamps on the
for the
errors.
failure, yeah.
I should have a PR relatively quickly. Mache, could I send that to you?
Yeah, ping me on Slack with that one.
Okay.
All right, and with that, we're out of time.
Yes, we are. Cool. Thank you very much, all.
Thanks, team.
Have a good one. Take care.